everyone. This is Sir Michael at Read On with Sir Michael Rivera, and today I'm going to be doing Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. This is a book that the author claims was inspired by God. You know, he was going through a very difficult time in his life, and he had what he feels is a dialogue with God, and he wrote everything down. He wrote his questions for God and the responses that God had for him. I'll begin with a little quick biography on Neil Donald Walsh. Neil Donald Walsh was, for many years, he worked in marketing and several different industries, barely eking out an existence. I think at some point in his late 40s or early 50s, he was in a car crash. He broke his neck. He was penniless and living on the streets. And he was just on the verge of a breakdown. And this is when supposedly this dialogue with God occurred. You know, I think for me, one of the negatives about this book, and there's not many negatives, I think that for the most part, this is a great read, is that at times God gets very, I thought, heady, dense, and long winded. You know, I couldn't quite follow where God was going with, his message, especially when he talks about certain things like the Holy Trinity. I was just lost, But for the most part, God in this book is folksy. He's down to earth, and at times he's very funny. So I thought that that was pretty refreshing. And not only that, I thought that what also was remarkable and refreshing is that God, for the most part, has very progressive worldviews. This is definitely a book about self-empowerment, and I love that, because this is not the God that you get in the Old Testament, which is a very angry, scoldful, and rigid, strict God, a God filled with jealousy and all these petty human emotions. I believe in God, and I believe that God is not filled with these very petty human emotions like jealousy. So I thought that to read something like this was very refreshing. I actually want to share a passage from this book. This is God speaking. If there is some aspect of creation you find you do not enjoy, bless it and simply change it. Choose again. Call forth a new reality. Think a new thought. Say a new word. Do a new thing. Do this magnificently, and the rest of the world will follow you. Ask it to. Call it to. Say, I am the life and the way. Follow me. So once again, it just highlights that this book is about self-empowerment. One thing I do want to make clear is that this is Neil Donald Walsh's version of God. This is his interpretation of what God is. Or, a lot of people will have different interpretations of what God is. This is simply one. So if somebody reads this book thinking this is definitely God speaking, it might be. I'm not saying it isn't, but I think that sometimes it's healthy to have your own interpretation of what you think God is for you. However, the very important thing is that whatever God is, God should be somebody or something or some man or woman about self-empowerment. God is not the type of person that is trying to hold you back. God wants you to move forward. God wants you to enjoy sex. God wants you to be financially successful. God does not want you to be sacrificing all the time. Sacrificing is not healthy. And in that, I think that this book succeeded. Another thing about Conversations with God is that you do get the sense that there are some very deep, fundamental, universal truths in this book. And I love that about that. So, for all the reasons I just mentioned, I think that Conversations with God is an excellent, excellent read, and I recommend it to anyone. So please give me your thoughts, your comments, and your feedback, and keep staying tuned to Read On with Sir Michael Rivera.